Yeah, my book helps.
Burn, burn.
Yeah.
Are you up for the challenge? Welcome to the 62nd episode of the 313 Challenge. I'm your host, Ryan Folan, and I'm here to challenge you to keep things simple and powerful. Can you boil down your core messaging to 3 sentences? Do you think you could do it in 1 sentence? And ultimately, do you think you could explain what you do in just 3 words? Well, you can, and I can help. And that's what this podcast is all about. I've been challenging people like you to simplify your messaging throughout my career as a speaker and a consultant around the world, and now I've brought my 313 challenge from the stage to the studio. This week's guest in the hot seat is Pavan Kumar. He's an angel investor and author of Embracing Ground Zero. He shares how to embrace your failures and bounce back. We talk about an approach to a turbulent time in your life, turning that into something that's powerful, and how he changed his life after failing to get the test scores that he so desired when he was young. Are you ready? I am. Let's go. So today we have joining with us Pavan Kumar, who is an investor who has taken his life experiences, the good, the bad, and hopefully some ugly ones, and turned it into his book, which is called Embracing Ground Zero. Welcome to the show, Pavan. How are you doing?
Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to join you on this conversation. I had an opportunity to listen to some of your earlier podcasts, quite amazing, great conversations, and very helpful.
Yeah, well, it's great to listen to them, but then when you're in the hot seat, all of a sudden it's like, oh gosh, it's me. But hopefully you'll get a lot out of this. And worst case, we're gonna have fun and we're gonna learn more about your book. But before your book, I want to learn a little bit more about you. Now, we had a mutual friend make the introduction, but if you were to share a story, just a single story that shaped you, it could be one from the book, it could be one out of the book. Tell us a story about yourself, and hopefully that story lets us get to know you a little bit more.
Thanks, Ryan. This is a story of my childhood. This is at the age of 15. This is a story that has really shaped my life. And this is also the basis of this whole book, especially for a child of 15 coming from a lower middle class family, struggling parents. In India, 10th standard is the key in a student's career. The exams are conducted by the government. For the first time, you face a public exam. This was the exam which I took. And prior to that, in the school, I was school leader in my class. I had a great profile, part of a student committee, sitting among the teachers. I had a brand of myself. I took this exam, the public exam. Most of these papers were leaked for the public exam, and some of them got published even in the newspaper.
Oh, wow.
A day before. Despite all this, I ended up getting a second class, which is less than 60% marks. And I was the only student in the whole class. A class leader turns out to be a second class, while the rest of the entire class is first class. I was so ashamed even to go and collect my testimonials, my certificates, and it was a disaster. And that was a point when everything got shattered right in front of me. My vision, my own personality, my own self-image. This is what I call as ground zero. That is when I realized, like, I have really hit ground zero. It took me a lot of strength, courage, and introspection, and being candid with oneself, not blaming circumstances, not blaming people around you, not blaming others. That's when I looked really inwards, because at that point you're all alone, you're isolated. If at all you have to come out of it, it is you who can do it. No one can help you. Someone can sympathize with you, but no one can really bring you out of it. This is the story that has really shaped me. And that was a point when I decided I need to look at my life in a different way. I need to prove myself, and I need to get rid of all those habits, behaviors, and beliefs which have really destroyed me at that point.
It's interesting how we are valued based on what a standardized test will display, and that's not necessarily who you are, but at an early age, I mean, that's still pretty pivotal when you're a teen for that to happen, and then for you to have the maturity of not just getting pissed off and storming around and sort of going the alternate route, like if you're at ground zero, using that as your identity and making worse and worse decisions. Like, well, you use that as a catalyst for positive change. And did you really come up with that yourself, or did you have parents that really helped you through that?
Actually, my parents are very supportive and they were very quick to respond, saying, like, life is pretty long. This is just a setback. Especially my dad is a man of very few words. He never asked me, which grade I am, which grade I got. He always told me, like, have a good character. That's more important. Have develop good value system. Then you can survive, but don't go the wrong way. So parents did support me. Despite all that which is happening around you, you are in a corner, you are pushed. And I think the best thing which happened there with me, Ryan, is I didn't blame anyone.
Hmm.
I didn't push the responsibility on someone else. I didn't say somebody scored me wrong or somebody didn't give me enough marks, you know. And the worst part is I missed the grade by 1 mark. If you get 360 your first class, I got 359.
Mm.
But the best part is it happened with me that at that age, and it's really shaped my future.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if you had been first class with that 1 point, and maybe that set your expectations differently. Maybe you would have been a little bit more cocky, more arrogant, not as much self-work, and that could have worked against you in the longer run.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things happened. That's the reason why I call these points as ground zero. Ground zero is defined as a point.
Wait. We don't want to get too much into that. You're gonna
Absolutely.
spill.
Okay.
You're gonna spill the beans.
Right.
Okay. Well, I think that story is great because it actually
So,
let us.
let me just wind up with 10 seconds. What happened there?
Yeah.
How did the journey of revival start?
Okay.
So when I was going through that, I said, like, this is not my own doing. This is the consequence of my own, journey, my own efforts or my own misconceptions, whatever it is. I said, like, I need to prove myself. Then I started looking inward and saying, okay, this is what I lacked. These are the reasons why I failed. And what do I do next to get out of it? Then I made a plan. The journey of revival started.
Hmm.
And I've even today, when I look back, it's almost 40 years ago, but still those memories are so fresh, so vivid. I love those memories. I always relive those memories because they shaped what I am. They helped me to identify myself.
Yeah, and it's at the moment where you didn't get what you wanted. It wasn't what you expected. It was that it was when you were second class. And I think I can also attest to some of the most challenging moments that I've experienced are the moments where there's the most growth. Well, let's jump into the 313 challenge. I have 2 questions before we begin. Number 1, if you had to choose, do you think people care more about what you do, or do you think people care more about the problem that you solve?
Especially with my nature and with my interactions and all, I've been a very simple, straight, and very humble and very helping guy. So people definitely look upon me to what I do. And sometimes it puts a lot of responsibility on me to do the right things the right way.
But if you had to choose between the two, are the people, because I heard in there that you're helping people out, for the people that you're helping out, do you think that they care more about technically what you do, or technically the problem that you're solving for them? If you had to choose, more of a hypothetical question.
Yeah. So I think it is more to do with the problem we are solving because I get involved. I try to help them. And also I try to navigate them through those challenges and situations. But at the same time, making them competent and capable to do those things. I think I go with the second one.
Okay. So final answer, you think people care more about the problem that you solve?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, good, because the whole 313 is based on that concept. And so
Right.
we're on the same page there. Secondly, you said you listened to some podcasts. If you were to describe what the 313 is, how would you describe it? Just so people, as they're listening, they have an idea of what you know about it before we go through the process.
Yeah, I really love the concept of 313, 3 sentences, 1 sentence, and 3 words. I really love it because it really helps you to narrow down to a point what you are, really make you think, because it is very important for every individual to connect with that core and identify himself with what he is in a very simple way. So that way it's really great 313.
All right. And it is just that. It's a simple way to narrow down the way you explain what you do. And in today's episode, we're going to use the same framework to work on a book. How do you describe what your book is? Now, this is something that as an author resonates with me because people ask you, oh, you have a book, tell me about it. And it's so easy to default into, oh, let me tell you about this in here. Only got this. And then there's others in this here. And it's just like there's so much things that you want to communicate. But on their end, they don't really care about the book. I think they care about the problems that the book solves. I've used the 313 to help me in marketing my book. And since I know you have a new book and you're marketing it, I want to focus today's episode on that. So with that being said, we're going to work on how to describe your book in 3 sentences, in 1 sentence, and 3 words. And we're going to start with the 3 sentences. Can you tell me the problem that your book solves in just 1 sentence? And the challenging part is that I'm not asking what your book's about.
Right.
I'm asking the problem that your book solves. So I have a buzzer and I have a bell.
Wow. Okay.
If you successfully explain the problem your book solves with no mention of what the book's about, you get a bell. If you hear a buzzer, something went wrong. So 1 sentence, here's your first try.
Embracing ground zero helps every individual.
Okay, let's just look at this. And that's a friendly buzzer. You literally said the book title helps.
Right.
That's what the book does. That's what the book is about.
Okay.
So think of it like embracing ground zero solves the problem of blank, or my book solves the problem of blank. I know it's kind of particular, but that's why it's so challenging. So what's the problem that your book solves?
My book solves the problem of leveraging failures.
Oh, leveraging. Okay.
Leveraging failures.
The book, Embracing Ground Zero, solves the problem of leveraging failures.
Yes.
Well, you didn't tell me what it was. You told me the problem that it solves, so you get a bell there. If I were to say that to somebody, and then I'd ask them on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not a big problem at all, 10 being, oh my gosh, that's the biggest problem I've ever heard. Using the sentence that you said, embracing ground zero solves the problem of leveraging failures. How painful do you think that problem is on the scale based on that sentence?
Maybe I'll put it on 7.
Okay.
Because one really need to recognize the failure before he really wants to leverage it. Because unless one really understands the failures in a way where he intends to act on them by himself rather than blaming others, he cannot leverage that failure.
Okay, so I heard a couple things. I heard blaming on others. I heard identifying failures before you can actually leverage them. If you're at a 7 out of 10, the goal would be to create it as a 10 so that somebody hears this, they're like, oh my gosh, that's a huge, huge problem that I have. I need this book. The nice thing about that question, 0 to 10, is that we're at a 7. So there's probably a couple different things that we can add to it to make it a 10. So how can we rephrase this 1 sentence to make it more impactful as a problem? Could we say something like, the problem is if you don't identify your failures and you blame other people for things that go wrong, then you'll never be able to fully leverage the mistakes that you've made as part of your growth. Well, on a scale of 0 to 10, how's that one? Just changing a little bit.
maybe we are at 9.
Okay. See, we're getting there, right? It's all a process.
Exactly.
And we could spend a long time just on this, but the main takeaway is you want the problem to actually seem like a problem.
Right.
And you can describe problems at a very low pain level, and people will be like, okay, I got that problem. It's not that big of a problem. I don't need your book. And so articulating it is that, or, maybe something like the problem with people who don't leverage their failures is that they're likely not recognizing the value of all that comes from the learning of the failure. I don't know. But you see how there's different ways that we can phrase this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We need to get you at a 10. So let's take another crack at it, and then we'll move on to the next sentence. Tell me the problem that your book solves in one sentence.
Yeah, my book helps.
Yeah. So, and this is for everybody, like we're all here with you. It's so instinctive for us to just say, my book does this. The solution of my book is this. But remember, people care more about the problem that your book solves. Like, hey, I got a book. You want to read it? No, it's a book. It's really cool. Read it. Like, I don't have time. Okay. As opposed to, I have a question for you. Do you have this problem? Yes or no? Yes. Is that a problem that you want to solve? Yes. Read this book. It'll solve it. Do you see the difference in that?
Yes.
Based on what we talked about here, the pain, the agony, I want you to give me the problem that your book solves in a way that's like 10 on the Richter scale. And if I have that problem, I want to read your book.
My book solves the problem of an individual going through failures, recognizing them, and rediscovering himself to come out of it in flying colors.
Okay, I see what you did there. You kind of moved into what the book is about, and you just kind of put the word problem on there. But if we look at what that means, there's a problem within there. And I don't want to spend too much more time on it, but I just want to continue the thought process. The problem is if you don't own your failures, you'll never achieve your highest potential. The problem is that if you blame others for what goes wrong in your life, you'll never fully have control of your own life. The problem is people see failures as failures when in actuality, they are the most important growth opportunities you've ever had. So do you see how it's trying to make it more towards the problem and not just putting the word problem and then telling me what your book's about?
Okay, my book solves the problem of recovering from failures, discovering inner strengths to make the next big leap.
How about this? The problem is when you don't fully recognize and own your failures, it stops you from being, what was the last part you said? Like your best self or
recovering out of it with flying colors or something.
Yeah. So something like, so maybe take the book out of it and take the title out of it and just say, you know what? One of the biggest problems when it comes to failure is that if you don't fully embrace it, you'll never, something like that, right? Like if we take the book title out of it, like we're just having you're talking with me as a friend and you're like, Ryan, I've been so passionate lately because I've been solving one of the biggest problems that people have. I'm like, really? What's that problem? The problem is, let's try one more time.
The problem is we don't own failures and we always blame circumstances. And it is only when we own these failures, introspect, work to recover from them, we could be able to make bigger progress and come out of it.
How's that feel?
Great.
Good. See, and again, it's just going to continue to get better and better.
Right.
But you could even focus on the problem part of it. You still kind of go into the solution. So the problem is when you don't own failures, you end up blaming other people and not growing as much as you could. Have you ever failed? Yes. Do you own all those failures and do you take full responsibility for them? Well, not all of them. That's a problem. The problem is if you don't take responsibility for when you fail, then you don't have a chance to use it for your growth. Right? There's 101 ways to spin it.
Absolutely.
I think you get the idea. So next time you're talking with somebody about the book and they say, hey, what is this book about? Say, it's not as much what it's about. What's important is the problem that it solves. and stop talking, and they will ask you, what problem does it solve? And then tell them the problem. And if they have the problem, you can say, do you have that problem? Yep. The book is going to solve it. So you're not telling somebody to read a book. You're telling them that you have the solution to their problem. I get excited about this. Okay, so I actually now want to know what the book is about. So what is the solution that you present in the book? And can you say it in one sentence?
Rediscovering oneself and focusing on finding inner strengths to recover from the failure.
Okay, you get a bell. That was great, right? We're on track here. Does that solution solve the problem?
Yes.
And that's all you needed to do. The challenge is that if somebody were to say, what is your book about? And you go, well, chapter 1 is about this, chapter 2 is about this, chapter 3 is about this, chapter 4 is about this. And then it's over here. And I thought, and like, there's just too much information. So if you can shorten that down to just one high level sentence, I think you did a really good job there. And it's important that that solves the problem that you've stated. And now a break for our sponsor, which is me. Hey, it's my show. I can do what I want. I just want to let you know that there is something very cool you can get. It is something special. It is thought-provoking, sometimes funny, sometimes insightful, sometimes involves stick figures. It is the 3 Things newsletter from Ryan Foland. That's me. You see, I've got a newsletter that goes out, and it's very simple. It's on brand for me. And I just share 3 things. Something for you to listen to, something for you to watch, and something for you to see. It's my way of sharing updates, exciting things that are happening, insights, stick figure drawings, new products from the stickfigure.store. All you need to do is sign up, and then it will be delivered to your inbox. And to sign up, it's super easy. You just go to ryan.online/sign up. Or even easier, just go to ryan.online and scroll down, and you will see a place where you can sign up. 3 Things with Ryan Foland can be delivered to your inbox. All you got to do is let me know. And with that, we're going to go back to the show. So moving right along to the third sentence, can you tell me the target market for your book, but without telling me the A word or the E word? I'm not going to tell you what those are. So we'll just see. If you hear them come up, I'll buzz you. Tell me your target market for this book. Who is going to walk into the bookstore and buy this? Who is going to go online and buy this? Who is your target market?
All those who are going through challenging times. Everyone who is... Okay.
You want to guess the A word or the E word?
Okay.
Well, hold on. You said all people, and then you also said the E word. What was
everyone.
The E word? So here's the reality. There's millions and millions of books.
Yes, correct.
There's no way I'm going to read them all. I'm going to read something that is directly for me that's going to solve my problem.
Yeah.
So if you say this is for anyone or everyone or all people who have a problem.
Right.
It's like, there's no interest there. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So give a little bit more definition of who.
The book is meant for those who are going through challenging times, going through a failure, going through some disappointment, and they don't know how to get out of it. And they're struggling to find their way to a bigger opportunity or a better tomorrow.
Okay. I never said this was easy, right? I never said this was easy.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't hear the word like entrepreneur. I wasn't sure if it's a problem that you've had in the past or if it's something that you're going through now. And if I think back to the problem, you talked about owning failure. In the solution, you talked about going to the next level or flying colors and that kind of stuff. So I think there's an opportunity to remember the problem, remember the solution. And you can say, is this for young people, old people, or have you thought about that?
Yeah, it's mostly for young people, right?
Okay. So here's the thing. If you say that it's for young people, do you think that an old person still might be interested?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. But if you say this is for young and old, probably young and old are going to be like, no. So again, you can still be clear and there still be value. So for a young individual who has faced failure that has made them stop in their tracks, a failure that makes them feel unworthy, at fault, like they're all these feelings that you felt when you took the test, right?
Right.
For those people, like, so again, how do you narrow in on those? A timing of their life, an age, a demographic, a location. Let's try one more time for this target market that we're trying to put together.
It is for young and old who are going through a failure.
But wait, do you see how we just talked about young and then you just went back to young and old?
I think it appeals to all, right? So anybody who is going through a failure.
But here's the challenge. If it appeals to all, if it's for everyone, all people, or like anyone, it's for no one. Like, pretend I'm your publisher. You're selling me the book. You got to know your market.
Okay, fair enough. So let me try once again. It is meant for young people who are going through a failure, trying to find a way out of their challenging situation, trying to rediscover themselves and find those qualities and attributes within themselves which can get them out of those challenging times.
I like that better than anyone and everyone for old and young. A couple of the things that we can think on, and I won't know until I read the book, but you talk about this idea of a failure that like stops people in their tracks, right? Is this for somebody who is currently going through a problem or has faced a problem in the past? Like, if you had to choose one of those two.
It is for people who are going through a problem, and also it's like a skill, learning a skill. For example, I learned this skill when I was 15 and I repeatedly use that skill. And today I have mastered the skill so much, I intentionally use the skill.
Okay, so how about this? For youth who have encountered one, because the idea here is like, if you're young, maybe you haven't really failed a lot, but then there's that one big failure and you think that your life is over. For young individuals who encounter their biggest life failure to that moment and want to learn a specific skill set to prepare them for the rest of their lives to take failures and turn them into strengths, this could be a book that every single 14-year-old should read.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Right?
Let me try. You're right.
Okay, go for it.
For young people who are going through failures, it gives a great opportunity to learn the skills to get out of these failures, to discover themselves, and use these skills all through their life to achieve bigger goals.
Now, you said this is proven, right? Because you used it and use it over and over. How about this? For youth who encounter failure that sets them back, this book gives them proven skills that they can use now and for the rest of their life, turning failure into success.
Okay.
So again, I just like proven.
Again, every individual skills are different, right? What I discovered during my failure would be different from what you discover during your failure.
But is the skill set the same to discover? Yes, we're both going to discover something different. But you had mentioned skills. Like, is there a certain process that you go through?
The skill set is the process of discovery. The skill set which I talk about in the book is about, introspection, doing some, finding out the mistakes, the faults, the shortcomings. But again, that differs from individual to individual. For example, somebody thinks like he's lazy. Somebody feels like it is not his area. He has chosen a wrong area. It differs from individual to individual. So what is most important in this process of recovery is the opportunity to identify who you are, what you are. And
okay. I like that. So for a young individual in high school, this is for high school students who run into major failures and they want to know how those failures can help them discover who they really are. That's the book.
Okay. Great.
Do you see, I'm really listening to what you're saying, and I'm trying to patch it into the market. It's not just about failure. It's about self-discovery. And so if you go back to your solution sentence, you can now say, this is a book about how to use failures to learn more about self-discovery. That's what it's about. So if we go back to the problem is, as a teenager, when you run into what seems like huge failures, you tend to lose yourself. You lose a sense of identity, right? The problem is that failure leads to loss of self-identity, of motivation, and of blah, blah, blah. So do you see how we're trying to take things and you can pepper them back into the problem, solution, and the market as we discover them?
It's like, sitting in the hot seat, and it takes a while to get the words through. Okay,
absolutely. Well, how about this? Let's try this real quick. Tell me the problem that you solve, then tell me the solution, then tell me your market. Let's just try those 3 sentences. See how they work together.
Wow, it's too long. Maybe I'll just focus on the third one and let's get
Okay, go for it. What's the market?
The book is meant for young people who are facing failure. It helps to discover themselves, identify their shortcomings, identify their own inner strengths, recover out of those situations, and achieve their dreams.
I really like that. The only change I'm going to have is, instead of saying the book will, you want to say people who need. What you just said there kind of sounded more like a solution. This book helps people to do this and to do this and to do this. With the market, you want to say, for young people who have gone through failure and they are experiencing a setback, and they don't feel like they are themselves, and they want, right? Do you see the changing in the verbiage?
Sure.
You're describing that person.
For young people who are facing a failure, going through a huge turbulence in their life, this helps to.
No, and they are. Don't do that anymore. So who are also having a hard time, keep describing them, not the book.
For young people who are going through a failure, challenging times, a turbulence in their life, it helps to read it.
Again, do you see what you're doing?
Yeah.
So if the book helps people to discover themselves, when you're talking about the market, you want to say, this is for people who want to discover themselves.
Okay. Fair enough. Let me go. Sorry.
Okay. Right. No apologies. You're not doing anything wrong. This is just a fun exploration, but try it again.
Okay. For young people who are going through a failure, a challenge, a turbulence time in their life, they need skills to recover out of this problem or situation, to rediscover themselves and find all their inner strengths, capabilities, and at the same time, the mistake that got them into those situations, and come out of them.
I like that. So again, so the difference when you're talking about the market, you're describing the person. You're not describing what the book does.
Sure.
But in the solution, you can say, this book gives clear, actionable steps to help you through failure, to help you rediscover yourself, and to help bounce into a better life, even though you feel terrible. Right? If we go back to the problem, we can say, the problem is when a high school or young student faces a real world problem for the first time, and it makes them question who they are. It makes them question their identity. They become depressed. They don't see their strengths anymore. They blame other people, right? Those are the problems. Your book has these solutions, and it's for a particular audience. Okay. Is your butt on fire or what?
Yeah.
So I know that's challenging. You did a great job. We'll get you bells all around.
Thanks.
You could continue to work on this, and it'll continue to get better and better. Making things simple does not mean it's easy. Those are 2 different things. So now that we have the foundation there with 3 sentences, we can combine them all into 1 sentence. And you really have to do that work before you get that 1 sentence. And the sentence, you're taking those 3 elements and you're just putting them together. So if we follow the same that we went through, it would be, this is the problem that I solve for these people. So you could say, the problem is that not everyone takes failure as a launching pad. My book, Embracing Ground Zero, gives the skills to turn failure into self-awareness and motivation for becoming your best self. In particular, targeting teenagers who are struggling through failures at a pivotal age of development. That was one sentence, right? That was my first try. And it's just the problem solution market. So if you want to try this, pick an order and then we'll try it. So you have the problem, the solution, and the market. We can organize those in 6 different ways. What order do you want to try it in?
So we'll go in the same order: problem, solution, market. Okay,
go
so
for it.
We tend to disown problems and blame on circumstances and people around us. The point we own these problems,
my book helps you. So that was a really good job with the problem. Now transition into the solution.
My book helps to own these problems, develop the skills to identify your own inner strengths,
which is particularly useful for, let's just start from the top. And remember, it's one sentence, so it's kind of through thought, but I was peppering in a little help. So go for it. All you.
When we face failures, we blame others, circumstances. My book helps to introspect at the point of failure, look inwards, identify shortcomings and challenges we are going through, and help especially the younger people to develop the skills to rediscover themselves, make all those efforts and actions to achieve their goals and dreams in life.
All right. It's a little rough around the edges, but you still get a bell. Do you see how you could really sit with this and craft it? I know you're on the spot right now, but to be able to tell somebody in one sentence what your book is about allows them to now ask questions and you to have a conversation around it and things like that. The nice thing about one sentence is that you can technically make it 6 different ways. You can say, these people have this problem and my book solves it. For teenagers who are struggling with their identity because of the failures that they've had, the target market, they need to read my book, which helps them to turn failures into successes. And then the problem, because the reality is when you blame others for your failures, you're only failing yourself. Boom. Okay, so we've got 3 sentences. We've got 1 sentence. And so now the 3 words is more about using a metaphor or analogy. So this book is like the blank of blank. This book is like, if this book was a car, what kind of car would the book be?
Tesla.
Okay, this book is like the Tesla of failure, or the Tesla of emotional
out of failures.
No, it's okay. It's actually like a rescue. It's like a rescue helicopter from your failure. It's like the Coast Guard. It's not even a car. It's not a car. It's a helicopter. It's a helicopter to save you from your own failure.
Yes. Or this is like, pop out of a situation. What do you call it?
A launch pad. It's a launch pad.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a launch pad from failure.
Yes.
It's an ejector seat.
Exactly.
It's an okay. You want to know about my book? It's like an ejector seat of failure.
Yes, exactly. Out of failure.
So if you have a failure, you're like freaked out, you're trapped in, right. You hit my book and now you blow out of it. So if you're talking with a high school student and you're trying to tell them that they need to read your book and you're using all these long sentences and overdrawn out explanations, it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. But you say, look, have you ever failed? Yeah. Does it suck? Yeah. Well, guess what? when you're in a failure, you feel like you're trapped and you can't get out. Yeah, I know that. This book is like an ejector seat of when things go wrong.
Right. Exactly.
So do you see how that's just a metaphor or analogy? Like we were trying to think like what launches you out, right? An ejector seat. It's not a seat belt because a seat belt holds you in.
Yeah. Also, it is, you could say in a different way, once you learn the skills, Ryan, you love your failures. It makes you love your failures because this is the time when you start realizing, you have so many capabilities in you. You want to repeatedly try far higher and more than what you ever tried before.
Okay, so could it be a parachute for failures?
Yeah. I think I like the ejector seat out of failures.
Okay, what about a bungee cord out of failures?
Yeah, it could be bungee cord out of failures. Yes.
So, and the idea is that it can be a number of these things. And you might wake up tomorrow morning and realize it's really an emergency. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of things it could be, right? But the idea of the 3 words is not just about
zoom out of failures.
Zoom. Yeah. Although people might get confused with Zoom, like this, using Zoom.
Yeah. I think eject out of failures looks great.
What is it? The sunscreen for your failure?
Sunscreen.
It would protect you.
It is intense energy out of it. So it is ground zero. So we need to show energy. Yes.
So sometimes, coming up with different examples helps you reinforce the ones that are
absolutely
good.
Right.
But there you go. Now, when you talk with people and they're like, "Hey, I see you have a book. What's your book about?" You're like, think of it as like an ejector seat for when you're going through failure. Instantly, they understand it. And then you can go, all joking aside, though, the problem is that when you blame others and don't take responsibility for your failures, you miss a huge part of your own personal growth.
Absolutely.
See how that was the problem statement?
Yes, absolutely.
And we're having this pretend conversation. I'll be like, look, this book solves that problem because it takes actual skills documented over time that will make you want to fail because you realize how much it propels you forward. Then you say something like, but I don't want to get you too excited. This book is not for everybody. Okay. In particular, it's for people that don't know how to deal with failure. Typically younger people who see failure as failure. But for those people who are willing and they need an ejector seat out of their own mind, this book can help them to, and it's just, you got all that messaging, you put it together.
Yeah. So can we say just eject out of failures? Will that?
You want to have it's got to be a metaphor or analogy.
Okay.
If you're going to eject out of failures, that sounds like a tagline.
Okay.
This is literally saying, I want you to think of this book as an ejector seat in the format of a book. It's an ejector seat from your mind even, right? It's like, it's an ejector seat from your body.
Right.
When you're not literal and saying eject out of failure, you give your brain more of an opportunity to create this like illustrious, vision in your own brain.
Great. So let me do that. So
okay.
The one sentence is, it is an ejector seat out of failures.
Yeah. Well, this is the 3 words, right? Technically the 3 words. So think of it as an ejector seat from your failures. If you open that up for the first, if that's what you start with, that would be very powerful. And then they're going to start to understand.
Okay, great.
And that's why the 3 words comes at the end, because you really have to have that high level deep dive into all the stuff. I see you searching for a pen. You're like, we got to write this thing down.
Yes, I'm doing that.
All right. So for people who have this problem, they know that your book can solve it, and they identify whether they're youthful or they want to purchase it for their kids or for other people. Where do they go find the book? Because now people are going to want to buy it. Hotcakes, off the shelf.
And the book is available on Amazon, both in the Kindle as well as hard copy.
And the title is Embracing Ground Zero.
Yeah, the title of the book is Embracing Ground Zero, and what all it takes to rebound out of your failures.
Think of it as an ejector seat for the next time something goes wrong.
Okay. Yeah, think of it as an ejector seat when something goes wrong or you face a big setback or a failure. This is the book you want to read.
Yeah. Oh, an ejector seat of your next setback. And I know you're going to have a setback, so I know you're going to need this book because that setback is a problem, but I've got a solution for it. Here you go.
I know we all go through challenges, problems, failures often, and this could be the one which would help you to build all those skills to come out of those challenging times, rediscover yourself, go after your dreams. And once you develop these skills, you would love to go back very often to ground zero and leap to a higher plane and achieve bigger dreams.
Boom. Well, thank you, Pavan, for fighting your way through the 313 challenge like the ejector seat from your failures. I love that. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to another 313 challenge. Hopefully you see the pattern here in the fact that this framework of the 313 can also help you to chisel down your core messaging to the core. If you want to be a guest on the show, it's easy. You can apply to do so by going to ryan.online/313me. Make sure that you keep up with every episode by subscribing on your favorite podcast, maybe tell your friends about it, and also connect with me on social media. That's it. Until next time, keep it simple.